You got Talk Erie on your radio, 105.9 WZTE, live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio, also live on Facebook and on YouTube, having these crucial conversations that Erie needs. And once a month, the county executive comes from, what is it? Is it the fifth floor up there? Fourth floor?
It's the fifth floor. But generally, I come from wherever I'm working.
That's true.
I don't spend a ton of time
I
up
find
there.
that interesting that the mayor's on the fifth floor and the county executive's on the fifth floor. That's interesting.
They must have done that when they redid the courthouse to compete.
Right. I would think so. Well, Brenton Davis, the county executive, is with us. Welcome for your June visit here. Again, yeah, what are you working on right now? What's like dominating your time?
I mean, there's a ton of stuff. So, I mean, it's the follow-up from Select USA. I mean, that's a big part of our time. You know, the other part is moving this tiny homes village forward. You know, the zoning and, I mean, the boots on the ground stuff. We're going to get guys here. It should be one called here by Monday that me and a couple of the guys from the county, we're going to get out there and do a little bit of excavating and put in a little bit of a road and an apron to get in there. I mean, just the cost that we got back were kind of high, and I was like, that's ridiculous for scratching out some topsoil and laying down some fabric and some stone. So we're just going to roll up our sleeves and do it ourselves and save the taxpayers $1 so we can put as much back to this project as what we can, you know, and obviously train some guys while we're doing it there. So,
and you don't get pushback? I mean, you know.
What are they going to say? You know, I mean, if you want to do it for less money than we can do it, then come on with it.
The union doesn't do a formal complaint?
I mean, the union has nothing to do. I mean, it's like, we don't have anybody that does that kind of work. I mean, you're talking about excavating and digging a road and hauling stuff off. You know, I mean, I'll hire the trucks and, you know, just volunteer my equipment and just do what I do. You know, but that really saves money. I mean,
and where those tiny homes are over by the
it's over by the Resilience Center, the old work release building. I mean, you drive by there, 16th and Parade, and I'm sorry, but
Wallace, right?
What's Parade? Yeah.
Parade,
between Parade and Wallace would be where it's at. I'm sorry, 14th.
Yeah.
But you look at kind of everything that's there. You know, we've got the single stories, we got the double stories in 2 pieces that are there, and I mean it's all coming together. You know, we got to kind of work through some of the zoning with the city, so hopefully we're past that bureaucracy. I mean, that's been the biggest holdup is the bureaucracy of the city, just, you know, not letting us. I would have hoped to have had these things sitting on foundations and be finishing the inside by now, but I mean, we've got contingency plans, and we're just going to throw a lot at it.
You're still waiting on a final permit, or
so I mean,
what's the whole what are you hearing?
You know, it's your question. Yeah, I mean, I guess your guess is as good as mine.
So, well, I mean, because I heard that we had a new sheriff in town, and that this stuff was going to happen more quickly.
Well, I mean, I hope, but I mean, you.
No, I'm not talking about the mayor. I'm talking about in zoning in code enforcement.
It's just something, I guess, like I said, we got to work through. I mean, hopefully this meeting this week, we get it all hammered out, and in the city really put some tailwinds at our backs here and helps us with this initiative. I mean, I never thought in a million years we'd have 25 tiny houses built before we could get something through our own city government. But I mean, that's the reality.
And
I don't know what it is.
Who's the target? Who's gonna live in these?
I mean, so there's various. So I mean, the internal policy is still coming. I mean, really, it's a no wrong doors approach. You know, I mean, it prevents primarily the double stories would be family units. You know, where a mother and a father and 4 or 5 kids could stay in it if they had to. That's one of the biggest contributors we have for having to remove children from houses is just housing instability. You know, that doesn't benefit a child to break up a family when it comes down to just a place to stay. Right. You know what I mean? Like, those are the easy singles that we can solve as a society, as opposed to the more complex, like drug and alcohol, drug use, absentee parents, abuse, things of that nature that are far more complex in nature. Obviously we've got a population of homeless veterans. We work through VA programs. We've got all sorts of unhoused folks. But, I mean, the goal behind this is really to be the stopgap. It's the folks that come on hard times that can that can have a place, or through a program that we can easily and quickly place folks to get them to where they're not going completely bankrupt. They're not going so far back that it takes them a decade to dig themselves out. This isn't a be-all, end-all solution for the more complex, like mental health and intellectual disability cases that we have, but, we have streams of revenue for those things, and, we work through our different providers to help those folks get the care and get the resources that they need. But, really, the goal of this is to be not only that stopgap, but a flexible tool that we can provide. We're looking for a couple lots down in Erie and some other places. That way we can really make this a county-wide initiative, because say somebody, becomes unhoused in Erie or Northeast or, Edinburgh or what have you. If you had to come clear up to Erie, you're away from your resources. And if you're a family, your kids are out of their school district. So, that adds extraneous issues, times that they're on a bus. And, when we place kids, we're required to keep them in their school district. So, it's a lot of time back and forth that they're getting carted, so it's, I think I said it's a fresh approach to how we're doing it. It's never been done here. And, like I said, it's multiple birds with one stone, because, you're not only solving homelessness, but, we're getting our prison inmates engaged once we get these set on foundations. We do this road work here. I'll probably have a couple of them out there just learning, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we lay this out. This is what you're doing. And, let them do what they need to do to become self-sufficient when they get done serving their time in the county prison. But, we'll move into the electrical, the plumbing, the HVAC, the drywall. We'll have volunteers and different companies doing that. We'll engage our prison inmates. We'll engage our trades programs. We'll pick up, obviously, like with summer letting out, the tech schools will be shutting down for the summer. So we're just going to keep the furnaces burning hot clear through summer and get these things finished for the fall. When the weather starts to really turn cold, it's my goal to have all of these ready. And, as we complete them, we can actually start engaging, moving folks into them. Once we get it completed and it's hooked up, we're gonna apply the resource.
What if someone who's listening has a relative or friend that would benefit from the tiny house? Are you still waiting, or are we still waiting on some kind of an application system for this?
So it'll probably come through regular service providers. This isn't going to be something that,
So referral through
it'll be referrals
through
existing case management. Okay. So it's not just going to be like, oh, hey, I'd really like to live in a free tiny house. Like, and mind you, these are short term. These aren't meant for people to spend a year in. It's a couple months to get
transitional.
100%. It's transitional. I know the federal government moved away from that as a philosophy for a while, and I think they're realizing that, hey, like, this is kind of a smart thing to do. You don't want somebody living in a tiny house. You don't want a family of 5 living in a 600 square foot tiny home. It can be done, obviously, and it's better and safer than being in the street. And these are nice little units, but that's just what they are. They're little units. They're not meant to, it'd be pretty difficult having a couple kids being cooped up in the winter time, in these things. But it's better than being on the street, and it's better than losing everything. So it really helps people get a foothold. That's really the goal behind it.
We do need, though, that affordable permanent housing, the step up from that transition.
So and that's a much longer term, because you think
we've got to figure out how we're going to fix that.
And it's not just us. This is everywhere in the country. And then you look at, everybody looks to the federal government saying we need houses. Well, the only way to do this, listen, like, this is like we've been talking about. All roads come back to your economy. It comes back to your economy and jobs. Like, if the government steps in and says, hey, we're going to give you a house. It goes back to the old adage, teach a man to fish as opposed to give him a fish. Like, it's not my goal to have a bunch of people living on the system that cost the taxpayers. Like, it's my goal to figure out, how do we get these people off and self-sufficient? Because let's face it. Living in Section 8 housing, living in government subsidized housing, like, it's better than being outside, but it's not the best life that you live by choice, right? So how do you help folks climb that economic mobility ladder? So it's giving them that foothold, that stopgap. And then it's things like the community college and the LTT building we're working on down in Corey for workforce development and training. It's getting these folks to get family sustaining jobs so they can buy their own house. They're empowered to have their own vehicle. They're empowered, and it changes the generational trajectory of where our community is going. So I mean, those are the things that we need to focus on. Like, I don't want to have a gigantic plan of how do we build, another 500 government subsidized units. I mean, that's just like turning on the beacon of benefits. Like, that's not at all the reality of what we're trying to achieve here. I mean, you want people to be self-sufficient, and you want them to have a life that they can be proud of and be healthy and happy.
But isn't some of this conversation, and I didn't plan on going this way, but just 30, 60 seconds more. When the Secretary of HUD came last week, and I personally asked him the question, what about workforce housing? Because you've got lots of just young families, they're paying ridiculous rent.
So,
that's like 3 times what a mortgage could be.
So let's look, and to me, you have the jobs and you have the employers. It's things like, take the Avalon. I mean, the county, we put up a $45 million bond for these folks,
like a loan. Yeah.
So it's no financial liability to the taxpayers, but it allows them to get a lower interest rate. The redevelopment authority made a little bit of money by doing it, and it helps lower the cost of the project to where they wouldn't have done it if they had to go to the private market.
Right.
But that workforce sustainable housing, that's in the private sector. If you have the jobs and you have the people and you have the businesses and you have a community where people are investing, you're tackling blight, you're tackling crime, you're tackling all these issues that make a community either healthy or unhealthy. The private sector is going to invest. And, with those jobs comes elevated wages, upward economic mobility, a good economy, an economy full of jobs. And those folks can buy a decent house. And I mean, really the problem, it all comes back to the economy and jobs.
Right.
And that's the key to solving the at least a good section of poverty.
We're talking to the county executive, Brenton Davis. We're going to take our first break. It is 4:19 on Talk Erie. You're tuned to Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. We've got the County Executive, Brenton Davis, with us here. And let's continue on. Can you give us briefly a little bit about this foreign direct investment and the convention you went to and then the visits that you had last week? Yeah.
So, I mean, we've had 6 visits so far.
And what was the name of the organization that you attended there? What was the name?
That's Select USA.
Select USA.
Select USA. It's ran by the Department of Commerce.
And is it mostly foreign direct investment?
It's all specifically.
Yeah.
So what it does is helps international companies land here in the United States. Yeah. So I mean, we're working on a lot of cool stuff. I mean,
Kyocera is an example of this, correct?
That's an example, or even take like Nippon Steel in Pittsburgh.
Right, in Pittsburgh, sure.
It's things like that, but it's not always a business acquisition. It's things like the metal alloys plant that we're working with. I mean, they've hired local attorneys. They're registered. I mean, we've already got 3 of them. 3 of these companies out of 6 already actively working with a local Erie attorney to register their businesses in Erie County. So, I mean, like, this isn't just tire kicking. I mean, some of these we met the year prior, and it just took them a little time, and every single one of them told them, President Trump says we need to invest here, we get it, and now they're here. Like, now's the time.
And this is the way to beat the tariffs is by
100%.
dropping something in here.
It's dollars and cents for these folks, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would you set yourself up to lose? So I mean, that to me, I think is a great strategy, regardless of what side of the political aisle you're on.
Is it all manufacturing? Is there some service or tech?
You're saying the ones that visit
the ones that are looking
at
Erie. Yeah.
I mean, without revealing, because some are under a non-disclosure agreement. We've got AI companies. We've got manufacturing companies. One was kind of like if you have a DeWalt or Milwaukee or whatever hand tool, like a battery-packed hand tool. I mean, they refurbish those tools. I mean, that's what they do is they specialize in that, and they're looking at coming from overseas and doing that locally. That way they're not paying the shipping both ways, and I mean, it'd be real easy to make an affiliation with like Lowe's, Home Depot, one of those places to say, hey, look, you got your broken, impact drill. You take it, it's repaired here locally. Just a lot of different things like that. But, I mean, there's some really exciting, some larger dollar investments, again, that we're under NDA that we can't discuss until they're ready to pull the parachute cord. But, it's a great time for Erie County. I mean, we're working out a direct delegation with India. So instead of them sending companies to Select USA to look for the needle in the haystack, one of these folks that was visited, he's one of the heads of the Trade Commission from India, and they were so impressed with Erie County. They're like, look, and I said, well, let's just make a direct pathway. We'll be your lily pad. Like, don't spend the money to go to Select USA. Come here to Erie County. Once they saw iHack, once they saw Mercyhurst Intel, once they saw Penn State Barron's Resolve, they saw all these different things, and they're like, wow, like, you can really get a business off the ground here. The Gannon Small Business Development Center, the beehives the county invested ARPA dollars in. Yeah. And they're like, you're really committed to this. And you say, absolutely. Like, we can help you lock, stock, and barrel, whether you're a, $100 billion company or whether you're a 3 or 4 or 5 year $500,000 startup. So I mean, a lot of these companies, luckily, the ones that have visited are fairly established. I mean, they've got a foothold, they've got employees, like they've got larger dollar revenue. I mean, the one we're looking at is a $20-25 million phase 1 investment with 100 jobs out of the gate.
Where would the workforce come for companies like these?
So a lot of it's mixed. So some of it, I mean, the vast majority would come from their local populace. It's upskilling. It's like we talked about in this previous segment. This is how you get folks from working low dollar service, making $10, $12, $14 an hour to how do you make $65, $75, $80+ thousand a year? Yeah. And this is how you do it. Some of it is highly specialized. So, I mean, they would bring in, their upper leadership from whichever plants that they have across the world. And, we'd have to do the work visas and things of that nature. But that's very typical for a a company establishing themselves in the United States to bring in their. I mean, obviously, if I was investing anywhere else, I would want my guys locally
Sure.
to go
Well,
oversee it
and
and
we've
get it
seen
right.
that with like Value Momentum,
Yep.
where they brought in their
bring in their
high-end
leadership.
right?
Yep. 100%. But I mean, it's a great opportunity. It's a great
And
opportunity.
what are you hearing from them that is so appealing?
About Erie County?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think our team, our economic development team, I mean, just went down there and we outmaneuvered states. I mean, you saw the posts, you saw the videos. I even had other states going, what the heck are you guys doing? Like, how are you? And it's all about quality conversations. It's all about drawing folks in. But the secret is, and I don't want to give out the secret on the radio, but it's us. It's the small town touch. It's having the county executive, having the RDA directors, having the economic development folks where we know where the sites are. We know where the water is. We know who the water authority people are. Like, listen, you have a puzzle, we can solve it. We're not going to say Wyoming's booth and saying, well, what do you got for me incentives? And they make you fill out a form and you stick it in a stack of 200 and then they ship it out to wherever counties or whoever, and that's why I think the Pennsylvania booth gets a little upset that we're there because, one, we're outmaneuvering the state unapologetically, and two, it's because we can make deals. We can say, well, here's a plot of land. The RDA already has control of it. We could get a board to sign off on this week. We could hold a special meeting, advertise it, hold a special meeting. Like, you want to buy a piece of ground? You want to finance it? What do you want to do? Like, let's do a deal. Like, we're doing deals. When we go to Select USA, we're making deals at the table, and that's why 6 companies followed us home simultaneously. And we've got probably a dozen more already in the wings, planning delegations throughout the summer, and that's not counting the Indian Trade Commission that's already looking at bringing other folks. Things like concrete, 3D printing companies. We're in talks with a lot of different tech type companies that see what we have to offer here, and the cost just blows them away.
Yeah, cost of housing, cost
of living, the cost of all of it.
Commercial.
You try to set up shop in California and see where that gets you. I mean, a lot of times they shake their head and they said, "Is this a lease?" Like, no. We're like, man, that's the cost for you to buy that building. It's not a lease. That's not rent. That's you owning that building. And they're just like, "You're kidding me." And that's a benefit. We leverage our strengths.
We're talking to the county executive, Brenton Davis. We got to take our bottom of the hour news break. Stay with us. It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show on a Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in to Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show. On this Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month, we try to talk to the county executive, Brenton Davis. It's an ex officio slot here on the radio show. And County Executive Davis, you've been in the news quite a bit. Let's kind of talk about some things, hear your voice on these things. Last week, Auditor General Timothy DeFore released a performance audit of the Gaming Revenue Authority, or EGRA, finding the authority complied with the law when issuing grants and reimbursing employees, and did not reimburse employees or officers for tuition and educational expenses during the audit period. Also uncovered ECRA did not receive $538,000 of gaming funds it was entitled to from the county because of an informal agreement. Go ahead and weigh in on that.
Well, I mean, first off, you just said it. An unwritten informal agreement. Where on earth? I don't even do 3 slabs of concrete in front of the courthouse. You're talking 3 by 3 squares of concrete. We have a contract with somebody. So you're telling me that county government of the past, along with ECRA, doesn't have a memorandum of understanding of how they're going to distribute this money?
What is that $500,000 from?
What they're saying is
what
they're saying is the differences between revenue coming in and the percentage breakdown. As it fluctuates, they're basically saying the formula is different. You can argue that whichever way, but at the end of the day, when you literally come into your report, now keep in mind, this was just 2 years. Well, you got a guy that just ran for county executive from a supposedly apolitical organization. Well, obviously we know they're political because your chief guy, your employee, just ran for political office. You can't argue ECRA's apolitical. You just can't. That just threw the baby out with the bathwater at that point. But we all know what it is. You're preparing for a political run, and my administration has been unapologetic about holding boards, authorities, and commissions accountable. So, of course, you're not going to have any major glaring errors the last 2 years with us staring at every single thing, us internally auditing, looking, questioning, having people at the meetings. When we send receipts down there to the Auditor General for $500 filet mignons and $10,000 payments for Wood's doctoral degree and, trips to the PA Society. That's a political event in New York City at Christmas time that the rich of the rich of Pennsylvania go to, started by the Rockefellers. It's like, we paid for that. You look at the things that we're paying for. So, it wasn't my intention for them to pick a 2-year window. I sent them a whole slew of things, and there was no report that came back on any of those receipts. Was that the easy way out? I don't know. But either way, a lot of questions still remain. Okay, you want to say that you're allowed to do loans. It didn't say that all of these loans are in Erie County. I've requested multiple times, who has the loans, what interest rate are they paying, and how many loans you have that are in default. Taxpayers deserve to know.
But aren't all those records online?
No.
I've seen a lot of them.
There's not a single. You can't tell by looking online who has what loan. You can't tell whether they're current. You can't tell whether they're delinquent. And then you look at ECRA that passes a resolution how long ago that says, well, if any of these default, we'll consider it a grant. So basically, if any of these businesses that they take a chance on investing in goes defunct, keep in mind, there's already $1.5 million in unrecoverable losses that are already on their books from previous loans. So, I don't think it's unreasonable for the county executive, and you made a point, earlier, before we came on air. This isn't a political witch hunt. I can tell you Perrywood lost and lost by a landslide. I'm still not letting this go. This has nothing to do with politics. This has everything to do with right and wrong when it comes to casino gaming revenue. When we voted on that in 2006 to say, are we going to allow a casino here? It was under the premise that it was going to lower people's taxes. That has failed to happen. That has absolutely failed to happen. It's not that these projects aren't great. It's not that there's not a lot of good things, Mission Main Street and all these other things. But I think there's a lot of grandparents out there and retired folks and hardworking families that are like, you know what, man? I'm out here and I vote. You don't have to like me. You don't have to like my methods. You don't have to like all the infighting. Now the heir apparent on the Democratic side that won the election, wants to say like, oh, can't we all just get along? I'm going to tell you what happens when you just get along in government. Things like the previous ECRA, things like the GEIDC. You get a rubber stamp executive with a rubber stamp council that does whatever the heck they want with no checks and balances, and the taxpayers are left to foot the bill. Like two branches of government aren't supposed to go all the way to the end. Why else these same Democrats are saying, oh man, guys, why can't you get along, are the same ones that are trying to control the House and balance out, President Trump and all these other things. That is the nature of the American democratic system. It's checks and balances. Like, I'm not there to, bid the will of counsel or vice versa. I mean, there's checks and balances. The veto exists for a reason. And somewhere in the middle, through that dissent, is the strongest and best answer for our community. Not everybody doesn't get, someone doesn't get everything and the rest don't get nothing. I mean, everybody gets a little of something in the end.
So will you commit to me right here that you're going to settle up this
I'm not
going to
commit to, absolutely, I'm not committing to any of that. I mean, there's a lot of legal things. I mean, I read the report when it came out.
Will your solicitor go over all this?
Absolutely. I mean, we're already doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you look at this, an informal. I mean, who on earth? I mean, think about that. If somebody, say a contractor that did our parking lot recently said, hey, you know what, county executive, there was an unwritten informal agreement prior to you coming here. I'm owed an extra $100,000. Unwritten and informal. Right. I mean, no contract, no case. I mean, first off, but unwritten and informal. I mean, that even if that was me in the room, that is not a contractual obligation in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, the council is concerned that that you're going to push on this.
Council's always concerned, but look at where their bad ideas have gotten us. I mean, they're terribly misinformed. I mean, even take this revenue for the inmates. You got Terry Scatella on the news saying, "Oh, this is blood money," and the Davis administration did this. Newsflash: if you actually knew what you're talking about, this contract of us housing federal inmates has been in place since 1995.
Right.
Under the Judy Lynch administration. What I did do in May is get the taxpayers of Erie County more money per inmate. That's the art of the deal, getting more money to make sure that we're being compensated appropriately. I put that in my budget knowing that, hey, we can make a little bit more money. Let's renegotiate this, which I lowered the cost of overtime so the taxpayers don't have to foot that bill. It's things like, and I suggest, as I sent down, and I think they're going to vote on it tonight or maybe next week. But why on earth, if you have external revenue coming in for providing a service to the federal government, and we have $600,000 in boilers that need replaced. Now, mind you, if they fail, we could get a civil rights lawsuit from every inmate in there and lose our tails because you would lose if they didn't have hot water. So, this is things that we've inherited 30, 40 years of managed decline and lack of maintenance. So you look at those things, and for us to utilize that money to pay those bills, that saves John Q. taxpayer at home from having to foot that $600,000.
So you don't want the money to go back into the general fund. You want it to stay with the prison.
Use it here and now. Number one. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be just the prison.
Okay.
But I mean, just defray the cost to the taxpayers, like we're supposed to be doing with the casino gaming revenue money. Like, offset the cost. Like, you got a council, and here's the funny thing. And I said this in a media interview. You've got Scatella, you got Rock Copeland that, I mean, they'll go up to the Jefferson and grandstand, but they also did the same thing about the budget, right? Grandstanding about the budget. Oh, it's such a mess, and the revenue. Okay, now I'm calling BS times 2, because if it was truly as bad as they say, if the budget is truly as bad as they say, why on earth would you even utter the words that you want to turn away millions of dollars from a federal source that taxpayers don't have to pay for? That just goes to show these folks either A, don't know what they're talking about at all, and we consistently prove them all wrong, or B, you do know what the right answer is, and you're misleading the public simply to play politics. So which is it?
Well, it could be C, that the gains are ill-gotten because there is a a desire to not cooperate with the federal government in the way that they're doing detainees.
Well, but
I mean that's a philosophical approach, right?
Since 1995, they didn't have any problems with it until now.
I mean, again, according to Councilman Copeland, Kathy Dahlkemper in 2 terms had 12 detainees. We've had 12 detainees within weeks.
I would disagree with those numbers. Number one, I mean, so take a look at even where we're at now. The vast majority of this money doesn't even come from detainees. The vast majority. So say for instance, somebody is held and is sentenced to a federal prison. Let's just say any one of these federal folks that go away to a federal prison, they appeal, they come back here for any reason. They have to come back here and stand trial. They're a federal inmate that we house. So that's why the U.S. Marshals has the contract. So, I mean, they're out there telling folks, this is a contract with ICE. Actually, no. This is a contract with the United States Marshal Service, who happens to jockey inmates for Federal Bureau of Prisons, for Immigration and Customs, I mean, for all these federal agencies. The vast majority of this money has absolutely nothing to do with the detainees and the holds that we have. And if you compare like last year to this year, it's not up that much here compared to what it was the years prior. But then even folks want to say, like, I mean, you even have the local immigration attorney sitting there talking about, like, you know, like you said, ill-gotten contracts and this, that, and the other. Well, look what just happened in Boulder, Colorado. Like, they make it sound like, well, these are just people that just overstayed their visas, which, remind you, A, is a crime. It's a crime. And then look at what these folks are doing. I mean, this guy just set
people,
old women and children on fire, and he overstayed his visa. How much of that is preventable? You know, so I mean, you look at it, you can't argue in one hand you're doing something illegal, and then say I'm all for the Constitution, you know, and the due process and all those other things. So I think you absolutely have to do those, because I had somebody ask me this question yesterday. Well, if they didn't come here legally, well, you realize that the Constitution protects all people within the confines of the United States, irregardless whether you're a citizen or not, legal, illegal. And that's the point they're making. However, this contract has absolutely nothing to do with that. And, you know, just the idea that you're going to grandstand when, one, you don't even know who the contract's with. Two, your numbers are terribly wrong, and I can prove you're wrong because I've got them. You know, and even if the number was 12, these are 12 people that still broke the law, irregardless. You know, we hold people in jail all the time. All the time. They get arrested by the local police, go through the process, they await trial, some are found not guilty, and they spent time in our jail. So, I mean, that's the American judicial system. I'm not saying that you should round people up. That's not happening. I've talked to ICE. You know, we're working with meetings for the local refugee and immigrant groups to meet directly with ICE. You know, we have a meeting coming up so their leadership can ask questions. And, you know, talking to these local refugee communities specifically, they also do not want illegal people in their ranks.
Right. That's all about legal immigration.
100%.
And refugees.
So, I mean, to me, for these folks, for Copeland and Scatella and Drexel, I mean, once again, it's just political grandstanding where they have absolutely not a single iota of what the real truth is. I mean, not a single one of them's read the contract, or why else would you be saying it's a contract with ICE? It's not. It's not even a contract with ICE. So, I mean, you can't even begin to debate these folks. You know, there's not even a debate to be had when you don't even understand the basic premises of what you're even talking about. And I mean, this is the case with county government for the last, you know, year and a half at least. You know, you get folks that interject a bunch of conjecture, you know, misinformation, half-truths, wrapped in a political agenda. And they say if they just say it loud enough and repeat it enough, that's going to make it true. Well, the numbers don't lie, and neither do the contracts. And it's kind of the same thing with ECRA. You know, informal, unwritten. No matter how many times you say, oh, we're owed money, it doesn't make it lawful.
The last part of this release from the Auditor General said that they encourage the, quote, they encourage the parties to work collaboratively to conduct fiscal year-end reconciliations to make sure funds are distributed according to the law and any differences are settled. They also made a joint recommendation encouraging ECRA and Erie County to formalize any agreement on how funds are distributed, reconciled, and settled to avoid any issues in the future. So they're playing referee here a bit too.
I mean, they always do. I mean, even look at the local courts over the veto. The local judge, that's why we appealed it to the Commonwealth Court. That does not benefit Erie County taxpayers. I don't stand up and fight for people just because I like getting kicked in the jaw in the media every day. I don't do this. It doesn't hurt my feelings if I have to cut a $538,000 check. It's not my money. It's a taxpayer's money. It's not like it comes out of my wallet. Why do I resist? I own a successful construction business. I still make far more nights and weekends than I do as county executive. And people say, why do you do what you do? It's because I care about the future of this place. It's all them years ago when I sat on this very show talking about where we need to go and having a vision for more. I don't fight because I like it. I fight because there's people and things in a future worth fighting for. There's people in this town that have taken advantage of the taxpayers for decades. And I literally came here not to play the game. I came here to change it. And that's what I fully intend to do. And Lord willing, people elect me to a second term in another 4 years. We're going to continue to do things like Project Resolve, Project Neptune, continue to bring businesses, continue to bring jobs here, continue to bring prosperity. But again, like I said, that is my vow to these people is as long as we have casino gaming revenue and as long as I'm sitting in that office, it will be one of my top priorities to make sure that casino gaming revenue promise is fulfilled, that it lowers your taxes. It doesn't go to some nonprofit somewhere. It doesn't buy $500 filet mignon lunches at the Erie Club. It doesn't send Perrywood to New York City to PA Society. It doesn't pay his parking tickets. It doesn't pay for doctoral degrees. It doesn't pay for travel. It doesn't pay for all that stuff because that doesn't benefit anybody but a singular person. And there's a lot of that goes on in this town. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's Erie doing Erie stuff, and I'm here to put a stop to it.
I mean, to be clear, the Auditor General did not find that reimbursements were going for tuition and personal
So the
items.
reason is because they wrote what we call the Perry Law in Harrisburg in 2018 that outlaws it. So of course they didn't find it. But it's still things. They're still paying for educational conferences. They're still paying for those things. It's like you said, when Barry Grossman, Kathy Dahlkemper, and myself, who have very little politically in common or even philosophically for that matter, when we say, hey, you're spending too much, when Kathy Dahlkemper stood at the dais in 2020, ECRA had about a little over $300,000 in operational costs. That's since doubled when I called it out 2 years ago. So I mean, when you got Kathy Dahlkemper and B. Davis both lining up saying the same thing, you got to stop and ask yourself, either hell froze over or what's going on.
Well, yeah, and wasn't there one vote at one point, I don't know if it was from the state or from the county council, where monies were reallocated so that more money went to the county versus ECRA or something like that?
I mean, that's probably you're right talking about that formula, but again, it's that unwritten, informal. I mean, how do you administer something that's unwritten, informal? I mean, I have no knowledge of what happened in 2018, and to hold me accountable of what somebody whispered how many years ago, that is one. I think we've heard it time and again where they say, well, ECRA is transparent. Well, no, it's not. If it's unwritten and informal, that is not transparent in any way, shape, or form. And it's not just ECRA's fault. That's county government of the past, and we got to work to rectify it regardless of what it is.
At some point, there has to be, conversations in agreement. Let me ask you real quick here as we leave county executive. You're doing an announcement, I think it's tomorrow night, child care mini grants. What
tonight.
Is
so
that
that's actually tonight at 6 o'clock. So what that is, that's part of the $5.5 million that Erie County taxpayers have invested in child care.
Okay.
Child care is workforce development. So that's part of the $5.5 million that county taxpayers have invested in child care this year. So this $500,000, what that does is that takes care of the in-home child care providers.
Those are those small, they might have 6 kids, 10 kids.
Well, it can't have 10.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's limits. I mean, typically it's anywhere from 3 to 6, depending on, there's certain regulations they have to follow. But you look at the rural providers.
Oh,
You got a lot of
gosh.
folks where, I mean, you live out in Elgin Beaver Dam, or you live in Mill Village, or you live in Lake City. I mean, there might not be an available childcare when it's just easy for your sister, your grandma, your Aunt Susie, whoever, or the lady down the street that watches 3 kids because she's a single mom. She's like, well, I already got 2. What's taking 2 more? You
Right.
might as well give her some income. Well, our concern is this. It's to legitimize these things. It's to help them work through the STAR programs, the Early Learning Center, and work through all these different things and elevate the safety, elevate the quality. Give parents the peace of mind that these folks have the background checks, that they're legitimate, that they're trained. Things like cameras, doorways, fences along maybe a busy street, doorways at the top of a set of basement stairs, safety rails. I mean, just anything that's safety related. We've gone out there. So we've already awarded a lot of these grants. We've been awarded them along because I'm not waiting for a press conference to just give out money. These are reimbursement grants. So these folks have made the investment. We're paying them back. We want you to keep our kids safe. That's all this comes down to. But it's just another arrow in the quiver in terms of childcare, because not one size fits all. You take the refugee communities, language specific. If your kid doesn't speak English, how on earth can you send them to a child care facility where they don't speak your language? Or maybe parents just aren't comfortable. They want their kids raised in a certain kind of way. So, there's a lot of different barriers. So we're working through to make sure that, how do you get, the argument is, well, you want refugees to come here. Well, you want them to work. Well, they have kids. If they can't take care of their kids, they can't go to work. So it's solving a lot of these issues to help everyone climb that ladder of economic mobility. And this is just one key to get that done.
You got to leave it there. County Executive Brenton Davis, thanks for stopping by, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Talk Erie of the Joel Natale Show.